Hey, dreamers, welcome back to your Dream Coach podcast, where we talk about building your dream life and business from the inside out through leadership, fulfillment, and growth. I'm Shayla Wey. I'm a small business coach, growth strategist, and believer that when you lead with purpose, everything changes. So, in today's episode, this is one that I know many of us need to hear. So, whether you are an entrepreneur, a team leader, or someone who's felt the weight of constantly pushing, grinding, and giving more than you have, we're talking about burnout. More importantly, how to move from that place of feeling really burnt out to more of a balance and just rewriting the way that you relate to work, success, and your sense of worth. Because here's what I found is your relationship with work and your career will make or break your relationship with your dreams. And so I want to dive in deeper on this topic. Burnout isn't about workload. It's about misalignment. And so what I have learned is, and this is from my own journey, is that burnout isn't just about doing too much. It's about doing too much of the wrong things for too long. And so if you've ever been in a place where you're really excited about something you're doing, you can do it for a long, long time. I know for myself that when I'm excited about certain parts of my business, I can be up into really late hours of the night because I'm super excited. But I also remember being in a place where I wasn't aligned with what I was doing, and it did feel like the days really were dragging on. And so when your daily work doesn't align with your values or your zone of genius, it drains you faster than any long to-do list ever could. It's the emotional exhaustion that's kind of dressed up as productivity. So the solution isn't always rest, it's often realignment. So I question you to think about what part of your business or your current role or leadership just needs a values check. Sometimes just getting realigned with that can reignite sort of that inspiration and energy within us. I also have learned that productivity culture kind of is lying to us. I used to wear busyness like it was this badge of honor until I realized it was really burning me out and really blinding me. Our culture glorifies hustle, but more hours doesn't always necessarily mean more impact. You're not a machine, you're human. So your value doesn't always have to just come from output, and it doesn't just come from output. I've had to unlearn this idea that rest is weakness and embrace the sustainability is that real flex. So fulfillment comes not just from doing more, but from doing what matters most and really knowing that giving ourselves space to realign and to reset is part of success in the long game. It's also important to know that balance looks different for everyone. I was on a call a few weeks ago where we talked about this topic specifically, and I loved how someone on the call shared this idea of balancing. Because what I found is balance isn't a perfect 50-50 split. It's not about equal hours for work and life. It's more about that intentional energy allocation. And sometimes the scale tips, and that's okay if it's temporary and aligned with a goal. And so what matters is that you define what balance actually means for you, not some internet guru or trending reel, is what does it really mean to you? And that's where true leadership starts, with boundaries that you believe in. And so this idea of balancing, why I loved it so much, is that that is really what we're always doing in life. Is if we have something really important happening in work, we might have more focus and energy towards that. But then we might have something happening with the family, and maybe it's just a busier time of year, and we might have more tilted towards the family. And so we're constantly, as we go through life, balancing. But at the end of the day is that we're really mindful of what that looks like for us, and know that every time we're out of balance, we're usually growing in the other way. And so being off balance, here and again is actually a part of growing. Your calendar, I often will share with clients, does reveal your priorities. So if you really want to understand your relationship with work, just take a look at your calendar. Are your values in there? Your family, your health, is it just all meetings and follow-ups and, events? I've really learned to use my calendar in my life and not just my business. And I help clients with that all the time. As I'll often say when we're feeling that way is, well, if I was to look at your calendar and your schedule, would it show me everything that's important to you? Because if it's in the schedule, it's more likely to happen. And it's interesting how when I'm working with clients, they're often very good at putting in meetings or events, anything to do with work, deadlines, But when it comes to our health or it comes to family, that doesn't always take priority. So just looking at our life inside and outside the business, where everything that's a priority is scheduled in there and that our calendar reflects that. Because when you treat your personal priorities like professional ones, you start sacrificing what really matters most for what feels most urgent. I've also learned that you can't grow what you're resenting. And this one was really big for me. So if you start resenting parts of your business or your clients or your team, just do a quick check-in. Are you over delivering? Are you under supportive? When we don't protect our energy, we start resenting the thing that we once dreamed of building. And sometimes what happens is we just outgrow opportunities. And that's okay too. And what maybe fulfilled us 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago isn't maybe the same thing that's going to fulfill us now. So I found that fulfillment isn't just about loving what you do. It's about not losing yourself while we're doing it. And it's important to keep in mind too, to delegate before we break. So this is where the leadership piece really comes in, is if you're doing everything, you're not leading, you're surviving. And I learned the hard way that delegation isn't about weakness. It's about wisdom. So whether it's outsourcing, hiring, or training someone to own part of the process, you create breathing room that fuels growth. You don't scale success through burnout. You scale through structure. So one of the exercises I'll often do with clients is taking a look a year from today, 3 years from today, even 5 years from today. What is the business going to be like? And to go to that place of the goals and the dreams and working it backwards, because that allows us to create more urgency with systems and delegation, and doing that before we get to a place of burnout, right? Thinking as if, because we know that is what's going to happen when we set the wheels in motion. And your energy really does set the culture. So as a small business coach, I've seen this over and over again. Your team mirrors your energy. If you're constantly frantic and exhausted or emotionally unavailable, your team will be too. And when you model healthy boundaries and sustainable ambition, you create a culture that values not just performance, but people. And that's where long-term growth really, really comes from. And fulfillment isn't going to come to us after success. It comes with it. So you don't have to earn rest. You don't have to hustle now to enjoy it later. One of the biggest mindset shifts that I had was realizing that fulfillment isn't a destination. It's a way of working. It's a way of leading, and it's a way of being. I stopped chasing someday and started designing now. And you really can build a business and give as much life, a business that gives as much life as it takes. I learned from a mentor early on that your life outside of the business needs to be just as exciting as inside of the business. Because aren't we here to design the life of our design, like really design our life the way we want it to? I was having a conversation with my son over the weekend about success. And it's interesting how naturally people's first definition of success is just financials. Well, I have to make a lot of money. And while money definitely does create more opportunities, it still doesn't always check the box of fulfillment. So I just challenge you to think about, how can you enjoy the journey now? What has to change for you so that we're not just hustling to get to that next day off, get to that next vacation, and get to that next milestone. And you teach people along the way how to treat you, your clients, your team, even your own family. They learn how to treat you based on what you tolerate. So if you're responding to messages at midnight, guess what? They'll expect you to do that the next time. They'll expect you to be available. Boundaries are a leadership tool. They're not a personal preference. You're allowed to protect your time, your peace, and your joy. And your business will be better for it. Because growth doesn't require sacrifice. It requires clarity. So the final piece I want to leave you with is this, is that growth doesn't have to always mean more hours, more pressure, more sacrifice. Now, are there times in business where, yes, we do have to put the extra hours in? 100%. But it doesn't have to be like that every single day. What growth really requires is clarity on what matters, on where you want to go, and on what's sustainable for you. When you're clear, you can grow without losing yourself in the process. And so that's what real leadership and long-term fulfillment really, really look like. So how do you have it all? How do you prevent yourself from getting to a place of burnout? Or if you're in that place of feeling really burnt out now, how do you get some more clarity? How do you get more in alignment of where your strengths are and where you want to be going? As we evolve with our skills and different chapters in our life, those things can change. And we have an abundance of options out there. So if you've been feeling like you're carrying too much, pushing too hard, or not feeling the spark anymore, I hope this episode really reminds you that you get to rewrite the rules. Burnout doesn't have to be your badge of honor. Balance is possible and it's powerful. So DM me on Instagram at Shayla Wey Coaching and let me know what shift you're making in relationship with work. I'd love to hear what part of this episode really hit home for you. And if this supported you today, share it with a fellow business owner who's been living in hustle mode and is ready for more freedom and fulfillment. Because your dream life really does start with the way you lead, the way you live, and the way you grow. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time on your Dream Coach podcast.